Hi,
Hi, how are you,
how
waiter?
are you?
I'm
I'm
good.
good, bro. Wait, one sec. Let me adjust my camera.
Same here.
I thought I was gonna be down. You were gonna be up.
Same. I feel you.
Yeah. Oh, this is good, right?
I think this is pretty decent. So,
Okay.
how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, bro? I'm so excited.
So am I.
Yeah. Okay, let's wait for like 5-10 minutes
Sure, sure,
so more people join in and then we can start.
sure. So, what do you do today?
Me, I woke up, I drank like that green juice which I drink every day. I made hummus in the afternoon with I ate that with pita
Whoa,
bread. Yeah.
I
And
like
then in the
hummus, but
evening, bolo.
I like hummus, but I haven't made it. Like,
Yeah, bro, it's pretty easy. You just like soak the chana and just like grind it with like garlic and a little bit of sugar and salt and olive oil. That's it. And then
interesting.
I
Got
worked
it.
out in the evening.
Nice.
What did you do? How was your day?
So, I had to go to the dentist, and I probably have to wear braces.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is like the second
Listen,
time. Yeah, tell
the
me.
thing is, I feel like you're lagging a bit. Like, I don't know why. Can you check up? Like, if there's
Uh,
something with the internet connection, if you can.
1 second. Huh?
Yeah,
I mean,
take
it
your time.
looks fine to me. Am I still lagging?
Yeah, yeah. Like from my end, I feel like, am I lagging to you on your end?
No, no, you're
No,
not.
no. Maybe like I don't know. I thought it is, but it's okay now. But still, if you can see now, if you can, I don't know. Maybe like ask some of your family members or something
Oh, there's
to
nobody
check
at
up on the
home.
Wi-Fi.
It's just
Yeah.
me.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool. So
Am I
then
am
I
I still
think.
lagging or it's okay now?
Yeah, I guess like Dr. Shreyas is saying it's lagging, but let's wait for like 5 minutes and see how it's going, and
Sure,
then we'll
sure,
start.
sure.
Cool?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. A lot of people are joining in.
I can't see anything on my screen for some reason.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean I
think it's
can't.
because I'm the host. Maybe that's why.
Maybe
I'm assuming right now.
we're
But
both
you can
new
hear
to
me.
this. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
can
but
I
you
can
can
hear
hear
you.
me clearly, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Cool,
Can
cool.
you now?
Okay.
Like it's better now?
Yeah, yeah, it is. But like, although it is lagging a bit, but like it's fine. Nothing crazy.
Okay, cool, cool.
Cool. Okay. Completely random but so pretty. Okay, so let's start.
Sure,
Okay, so hi Aishwarya, can you tell us a bit about yourself so our audience can get to know you better?
sure. So I'm from Mumbai itself. I've been born and raised here. And I think growing up, I was always very much into academics, and I had my ambition of pursuing a career in science. And I moved abroad right after 12th grade was done, and I was in US for 1.5 year, and I think that's when I realized that I wanted to, like step outside of the box and explore
Yeah,
different avenues and different careers. And I think that is one of the reasons that made me come back to India. But then I
yeah.
equally loved science also. So I ended up completing my graduation in biochemistry and
Oh,
started
that's amazing.
exploring. Thank you. And I started exploring different avenues. I've always been into dancing, and along with that, I tried my hand at modeling and been trying to balance both things. It gets a little tricky sometimes, but yes, that's what I've been doing. And apart from that, I love spending time with stray animals, and I've been into stray animal welfare for the past 3.5 years now. I mean, like, it's a cause that's very, very close to my heart. And
Yeah,
another cause being women empowerment. Like, that's something I really tried to dedicate myself to this year. And
yeah.
I mean, going well so far.
That's great. Also, guys, Aishwarya is being modest. She is the winner of Times Fresh Face 2017, which she didn't mention right now. So yeah, and
Being
she has
modest.
also she's also competed in a lot of pageants, and she's been the runner-up for Miss Teen Earth, if I'm not
No,
wrong.
no, no. I was in the top 15 for Miss Earth India this year. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great. And you were also one of the runner-ups in for Miss Maharashtra, right?
No, no, I was not. So
Okay.
I was the winner of Times Fresh Face India. And this year I tried my hand in pageantry because I wanted to since the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was in the top 15 for Miss Earth India.
Dude, that's amazing.
Thanks.
So, so this question comes to me naturally. How did a biochemistry student end up being the winner of Times Fresh Face? Like, how did that journey happen?
So when I first moved abroad, I've been dancing since I was a kid, and I've always loved performing on stage. But I
Yeah,
think a part of me kind of put myself in this box that I have to pursue a career in academics, and if you want to do that, you cannot have another career on the side. And I think when I went abroad, I got exposed to a lot of different things. And there was a pageant going on in my university. It was called Miss Mississippi State University
oh,
pageant. So I competed in that, and that was like my first ever pageant experience, wearing an evening gown. And I mean, I was very raw, but I think that's when like a part of me was, you know what, I want to try this. I want to give it a shot. And I think that's
yeah,
one of the reasons that made me want to come back, because in India I was in a city, so there's a lot more opportunities when you are
yeah,
studying in a city. So I came back, and thankfully I was able to get my credits transferred to a college here, and I directly got admission in the second year. And I started studying, and I think in my first semester of the second year, we got a message on the college group about Times Fresh Face auditions going on. And I was like, wait, this sounds interesting. And I found out about this
yeah.
just one night prior to the competition. But I still
Damn, it
register.
was
I still
meant to be, apparently.
and I was very skeptical at first, but I was like, you know what, let's just give it a shot. What's the worst that's going to
Yeah,
happen is that I won't make it probably. But I was like,
yeah,
let's just try. And I mean, it worked out in my favor. I was the first runner up in college. Then, like, we had the semifinals in which I made it to the top 10, after which we had the Bombay finale, and I won that. So then I
yeah.
represented
I
Mumbai.
remember seeing your picture in the Times of India. You were next to Siddharth Malhotra.
That was after I won India finale, yes.
Yeah, yeah, that was mad, bro. I remember telling my mom, "Oh, she's from my school." Like I remember saying that. All of us are so proud, dude.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah,
So I think yeah, that's how like it all happened, and we got exposed to a lot of hands-on training and grooming and speaking skills, ramp walking skills, and I think that
yeah,
really helped me to kind of understand that I actually love doing this, and if I start working on bettering myself and being the best version of myself on stage, it's just
yeah,
going to keep getting better. So I think that's how it happened.
yeah. But this thing, it leads me to question: How did you balance your two careers? Because from the outside, the two careers which you were part of, they have very little in common. So, did you face challenges in that journey?
For sure. I mean, initially, everyone used to ask me that, you were studying, you're studying science, and you're suddenly trying to get into modeling. Like, that is not at all intersectional. But
Yeah,
I felt like I was breaking a barrier when I did that, because I didn't want to limit myself. But at the same time, I mean, there were a lot of challenges that I faced, because at times I had to prioritize my academics. I mean, if I have an exam coming up, obviously I cannot be doing this. So then that's
yeah,
when, prioritizing things really helped me gain perspective and keep myself focused on what I want to do. And I think devoting equal time to both things, and I actually did suffer a setback in terms of my goals last year, and that really affected my mental health. But I've always believed in, pushing through all the obstacles that you face in life. And I, at that point, I had to prioritize my academics because I really wanted to finish my degree. But once that
Yeah,
is done, I've started exploring things again and putting myself out there once again.
yeah,
So I think just I try to take it one day at a time instead of looking at like the future because that seems very intimidating.
yeah.
So
It seems
like
very daunting for all of us.
exactly. So I just
Yeah,
try to look at it like what do I want to achieve in the next year, probably the next week. But I will not think about
yeah,
like 3 months down the line or a year down the line. Because then I start
yeah,
to get anxious about my future. So I try to pace myself as much as possible and see how I
yeah.
can manage both things.
Yeah, I think that's a great message for all the viewers that make short-term plans and try to focus on your day-to-day task which you need to do instead of worrying about what's going to happen like 6 months or 2, 3 years down the
Sure.
line.
And I think
So,
another thing is that
yeah,
you don't have to restrict yourself to only one career option, or you don't have to restrict
yeah,
yourself to a certain niche. I mean, you should have the liberty to explore different avenues, and if something works out for
yeah,
you, that's great. But I think that's one thing I realized that it doesn't make sense to put yourself in a box.
yeah. Yeah, no, and I think this point is very relevant today because you see that parents pressure their kids when they are like 16 and 17 to decide themselves a career or a stream which they're probably going to end up working in for like the next 30, 40 years of their life. And at that age, I don't think most of us, when we were at that age, we were in a position to make the best decisions for ourselves so that, we were sure that that's what we want to do. So I think it's good that, parents should also be encouraged to let your kids explore different options so that, they can find areas or they can find careers which they would be genuinely interested in and they can flourish at.
I think that's very important because at a point wherein you're financially dependent on your parents, you feel liable to listen to what they're
Yeah,
saying, and that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of restricts things when you want to explore. But like, thankfully, my parents were supportive. I mean, they had their doubts initially because I mean, not a lot of people move back to India once they're
yeah.
studying abroad.
No, I can imagine.
But
Yeah,
they were like, if you want to give it a shot, we don't want to hold you back. Because tomorrow, if I have a regret of it not working out, I would rather put it on myself instead of having to point at my parents that you didn't even let me
yeah,
try.
yeah,
The regret of not trying is, I think, even harder to cope with than
yeah.
giving it a shot.
Some wise words from you. Yeah, no, dude, I can relate 100%. And I think most of our audience can too, because at some
Yeah.
point in their life, they have been in those situations.
I
And,
think all of us
speaking,
have.
yeah, and like from me, like from my side personally, like when I was young, when I was around 18, my parents kind of forced me to become a doctor since both of them were doctors too. So I gave NEET and I got an admission in a medical college, and I just knew that, that's not what I want to do. So I dropped out of the medical college and I decided to study economics and finance. And honestly, I've been much happier since then. So just for the parents out there and for students, guys, explore your options. There are ample opportunities out there today.
Yes, for sure. I mean, it's good that you found the courage to voice yourself, and I think that's what like people our age fear. Voicing
Yeah,
yourself when it comes to your own parents. Like, how do you tell them that you want to do this? Like, I mean, how do you do that? I think that is something that you have to navigate. Like, if you have conviction in
yeah,
what
yeah,
you want to do, you can phrase it in a way which makes it more understanding and make it in a way that they understand that this is what you want to do, and maybe try working on it on the side and show them some sort of a proof that I've been doing this and
yeah,
I've been doing so well in this, so maybe you would
yeah,
like
yeah,
to reconsider what you want me to do, and I would really
yeah.
appreciate your support. I think instead of just directly blaming them, trying to understand things from their perspective as well really helps.
Yeah, and I think like it's very important at that age to build like a an honest relationship with your parents, wherein there's no fear of judging or fear of what's gonna happen, but instead that both parties can be honest about their fears and apprehensions with each other.
I think that's something that Indian parents really need to work on in terms of
Yeah,
forcing their kids into specific careers. Yeah.
yeah. So, um, you know, I have seen a lot of your Instagram stories, and I did come across one wherein you had shared an unfortunate event wherein you were victim shamed for something that happened to you when you were 12. And I know you'd written a poem about it. Do you mind reading it out for our viewers or narrated? So we'd love to hear.
I mean, I would like to do that. I was supposed to put it up on my profile today, but I'm very, very new to editing, so it
Yeah,
took longer than I expected. But I mean, I would like to read it. Not a
that
problem.
would be amazing. Go ahead, the mic's all yours.
Let me just get my book because I've written it.
Yeah, sure, sure. Take your time.
Hang on. I'm going to have to look down a little bit
Yeah,
because I'm reading from
it's
the
all right.
book. Um, Born as a girl child, naive enough to think I wouldn't be treated any different, that my gender wouldn't define my rights, my safety, my freedom. But a patriarchal society had other plans. When I was molested at the age of 11 by an adult man, he followed me home to my stairs and grabbed me from behind. Said the zipper on his jeans was somehow stuck to mine. Underage me could also smell the ridiculous lie. But when he started rubbing himself on me, all I thought I could do was helplessly stand by. Yet, I somehow mustered courage to push him away, ran as fast as I could to my mother because I was so afraid to stay, got a hold of him and took him to his family. However, what they said was not something I was prepared for mentally. Apparently, I was the liar, the one misunderstanding, the one making it up. If you are not victim blamed, well, honey, I guess they would say that you are in luck. But I was still so young with a lot of hope in my eyes. Alas, life came at me with another cruel surprise. From rape and acid attack threats to slut shaming, stalking, and cyberbullying, I had to face it all. Think that was what began a mere 12-year-old's downfall. Tolerated his abuse for a year before my parents found out. Rape culture and misogyny are so deeply rooted, there is no doubt. The boy was still a minor who didn't know any better, they said. But what about the heart of a 12-year-old girl that bled? The more I grew up, the more I realized how catcalling, unwanted touching, unwelcome sexual advances were all being normalized. Not one person of my gender that hasn't been harassed by a male at least once in her life. But when we start to speak up, you can't take that, not quite. In spite of all the struggles and suffering, today I stand before you a woman who has finally found her voice, hoping she can reach out to the ones who feel they don't have a choice.
So it was, I think I can say that from all of us, it was beautiful, dude. And it just, I feel so humbled to be here listening to your poem. It's just so unfortunate that what happened to you when you were so young. And the worst thing is that it's something that is so common, yet it's one of I I think we live in a terrible world today, and we really need to change, and all of us need to stand together to bring about the change which is required.
I feel like
Power to you.
Thank you. I mean, I think this year I've just been trying to find my voice, and I've seen what an impact it has made on people who see my stories or my posts, and that just pushes me to keep talking about things personal to me, not because I'm looking for sympathy or attention, like some would call it, but because I want girls and women suffering out there to know that, you're not alone in this, and we might not have the same trauma, but it just helps to know that you are not suffering alone, or that you've not suffered alone, and
Yeah.
that somebody understands. I think that really helps, because when I opened up about what happened to me, there were a lot of women who reached out to me with things that had happened to them, and I just felt like, I'm healing when I'm talking about it with somebody. Like, I mean, working through trauma is different for everybody, but I think for me
Yeah.
personally, it was really helpful to speak about it, address it, not be ashamed of it anymore,
Yeah.
and not pin it on myself, because as a kid, I used to blame myself in some way that this happened because I was walking alone on the stairs, and that is why this man came and molested me, or the fact that this guy did all this, threatened threatened me, bullied me, because I did something wrong to offend him. But it takes a lot of
Yeah.
work to realize that it's not your fault, and nobody
Yeah.
should make you feel that way, that it's your fault. I think
Yeah.
that's very important.
Yeah, dude. And I, at this point, I just, I hope that you emerge as an example for many young girls and women out there to realize that there is nothing to be ashamed of, and it's not your fault. You cannot blame this on yourself. It's just an unfortunate thing that's happened, and we need to call it out when it's happened, irrespective of who the perpetrator is. It could be your brother, it could be your father, it could be someone who's your close friend, but you need to call out that action when you see it. And this is for all guys, girls, everyone, all
Actually,
of us together.
everyone. Because I feel like even if you can't do it then, because sometimes it's really difficult to have to
Yeah.
face it and process it, and it takes time to sometimes do that. I feel
Yeah.
like whenever is okay, whenever you feel comfortable, if you ever feel comfortable, I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you have to do what helps you get out of your trauma, because you will find a lot of support, and you will also find people who will blame you for having a voice. But I think it's very important to shatter these notions of victim blaming, wherein people tell you how you should be going about addressing your story. Some people
Yeah.
like to uh, talk about it publicly. Some people would rather just confess to like a friend or a family member. It
Yeah.
works differently for everyone, and I think all of us should respect that trauma recovery is
Yeah.
different for everyone, and it's a continuous process. And nobody want, I mean, at least for me, it's like I don't think anyone talking about it wants sympathy or for you to understand if you've not been through it, but just lend a listening ear. And I think that
Yeah.
applies to all mental illnesses also. When people are suffering from it, like if somebody is depressed, you don't tell them to think positively, like it doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. But just lending your shoulder and letting them know that you're here, I think
There. Yeah.
that's
That you're
that
there for.
really helps.
Yeah. But when you first told your story to people around you and when you posted about it on Instagram, I just want to know, how did you find the courage within you to share this? Because I'm sure this poem has come from a very sensitive part and it within you. So how did you find the courage to share this and put it out on social media for others to, feel and for others to look at? How did that go about?
So I think this year has been really beneficial for me in terms of self introspection and self growth. And I
That
think
makes
there
the
was
two of us.
I think that kind of helped me to understand that there's a lot of unresolved things. And I think
Yeah,
one thing that really messes it up for you is when you have to cope with re traumatization because you come across a certain trigger that reminds you
yeah,
of
yeah,
what happened. And I think for me, that was hearing about the boys' locker room incident that was going around,
yeah,
about this Instagram group being created and minor girls being talked about in vulgar ways.
yeah.
And there was a whole lot of controversy surrounding that later on. But I think that's
Right.
what made me realize that I was one of those minor girls once and I had to go through it. And there are girls still going through it. It's been, what, 12 years, and the story hasn't changed. And I was like, I want to contribute in some way to it. And for me, that was talking about it and letting
Yeah,
others know that yes, this has happened. Yes, you know, this person was from our school. Or just the fact that you might not know how a particular person is because you don't know what's happening, but to simply label somebody as a liar,
yeah,
or
yeah.
that
And just
happens a
excuse
lot.
the abuser
I think that
because
happens
they
a
are
lot.
there's he's a boy, you know. It's just people will say boys will be boys and discount literally anything that the guys do at that age because they are adolescent or whatever. I mean, girls are girls too, and
I
the
think
hurt
that
is real.
I think this really makes it difficult. I think for both genders, because boys also have to live up to this expectation that you have to be masculine all the time, or you
Yeah, yeah,
have to be strong, and I don't. You have to have abs, or you can't cry, or you throw like a girl. I think all of these things that you hear as a child really have an impact on your mind.
yeah, yeah. I think it's true. Our society, all of us, we do face the consequences of toxic masculinity. Guys different than girls, but all of us do face the consequences of that. And, young boys, they are taught from such a young age that, crying is not a masculine trait, and which is
Exactly.
so wrong. Crying is
Or
something that comes natural to us. When we are first born, we cry. So, how can that not be a masculine trait?
And also things like we've become such an inclusive society, but you still hear parents telling their kids that no, boys are not supposed to wear makeup, or boys are not supposed to dress in a particular way. I mean, it's like we associate the gender with the character attributes. There's no
Yeah,
fluidity. And I think that's very important to inculcate, and that can only happen when you take the initiative to have conversations, be
yeah,
it with your family members, your friends. If you see someone doing this, point it out, not to offend them, be kind, but point it out. I mean, I
yeah.
think
To
that's
make
what
the world a better place.
I think individual efforts really count when it comes to things like this.
Yeah, and that reminds me that this is one of the reasons why we named our tagline as Samvad, beautiful conversations. It's because we want to have difficult conversations with people, but we want to make those conversations beautiful so that both parties end up learning something new about each other and finding, a midway ground to understand each other and just get to know the world in a different point of view.
I think that's very important because I think all of us have a lot to learn. I feel like even me 1 year ago is not how I am today, because we're all
Yeah.
constantly learning, growing, evolving. And it really helps to have an open mind and understand different perspectives and try to engage in a healthy conversation without making it ugly.
Yeah,
I think that's something, it takes a lot of effort to get there, but it's worth it, I think.
yeah. So
And
also, yeah,
no, no, go ahead.
yeah. So I was gonna ask you, do you mind sharing to our audience how you got to know about us and how did you get involved with someone?
Um, so I think I came to know about it because you had messaged me about it. And when I found out that there's an NGO that's offering free therapy to people who cannot access it, or for people who cannot afford it. I felt
Yeah.
like I never, at least personally to me, I have not heard of any NGO offering this. And that's what really fascinated me, that this could help so many people who
Yeah.
want help but don't know how to reach it. And I think when I became associated with Samvad was when I opened up about what happened to me. I think back in May. So sometime after that, a girl approached me regarding something that she was going through. And I knew that she couldn't access therapy by herself. And I was like, this is where I can direct her to Samvad. Because I
Yeah.
have to understand that even though I want to help her, I am not a professional at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Yeah.
for me to direct her or provide her with resources that could help her get out of this is so important. And since she couldn't access therapy otherwise, I think it really played a role in making sure she gets the help she needs. And I think that really is what I appreciate about Samvad. Honestly, like a lot of people cannot afford therapy access. They don't have access to therapy. I've been blessed to have that when I've struggled, but not a lot of people are. So I understand, because I have been through it, I understand how necessary it is to get professional help when you need it. And I think that's what really connected me to Samvad, that some NGO is offering this free of cost to people who need it. And I think that really makes me very happy.
Yeah. And uh, you talked a bit about, you having therapy for yourself. Can you share how that experience was, when for the first time when you approached a therapist? Like, how was that? How did how did you go about that experience?
So I'll narrate like something that I was going through last year. I started getting anxiety attacks, and I was in a very bad phase at that point of time, because I'd never had an anxiety attack before that. And it's so strange because you don't feel in control of your body. And I didn't know what to do then, and it I felt so helpless. And on top of that, some goals that I had in terms of my career also did not work out. And I was just very depressed and anxious all the time, and very miserable in terms of my mental health. And I think that's when I realized that, okay, I do need help. And my friends or my family cannot provide that to me, even though they want to. Like, they're not the
Yeah,
ones who can help me through it, because they're not
yeah,
they're not
they are
certified
not
therapists.
professionals. Yeah,
Exactly. So I think that really helped me, because I learned a lot of techniques in therapy, like when I'm having an anxiety attack, as to how to ground myself. Like, one technique that I learned was, you look at five things around you, four things you can smell, three things you can touch. Like, you
yeah,
try to associate with your senses, and that kind of helps ground you to the present moment. And that really helped me a lot. And I think a lot of these techniques that I learned on how to manage things better, because
yeah,
I won't say that, once you suffer from something like this, you're always going to be okay, because I still have a lot of times I feel very anxious. But I feel like these techniques are something that have long term benefit, because if you
yeah,
keep
yeah,
practicing them, it
for
starts
sure.
coming to you more naturally, I
Naturally,
feel.
yeah, yeah. True. Even when I had scheduled appointments with a therapist from Samvad, I think one of the first things which I realized was that I was always so hard on myself, and that I was always expecting so many things from me all the time. And just, step by step, the therapist helped me to love myself for who I am, and helped me get perspective on two things. So, anyone out there who is, or he or she, whoever is going through a tough phase right now, and you all don't know how to go about it, I think both of us can recommend you therapy with
Samvad.
Yeah, and just in general, any therapist you can, but
Yes.
don't hesitate. I can assure you that you'd be better off with a few sessions than if you hadn't approached. Like, try it for yourself and then, see how that goes about.
I think mental health is very stigmatized, and people
Yeah,
feel like if you are taking therapy, that makes you lesser of a person.
yeah, yeah,
When in fact, it's the exact opposite because you're trying to put yourself out there because you want to get better. I mean, there's
yeah, yeah.
nothing that could be more positive than you
True.
wanting to get out of that situation. That's the
Yeah,
first step to progress.
and heal yourself in a good way.
That's so important.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people forget this. I remember reading this in my sixth grade textbook that being healthy, health was a state of complete well-being in three things: physical, mental, and social. And I think like there's such disproportionate amount of importance given to physical health, whereas your mental and your social well-being, both of them are completely neglected. And if either one of these three are removed, we are not healthy anymore. So I hope people realize that.
I think that's very important because when it's a mental health issue, you can't see it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And
Yeah,
it's really important for people who, even the ones who are not suffering, to acknowledge this. If you are not educated about it, please go and read about it. It won't take more than half an hour to just get an idea about what mental health is, what the different
yeah,
kinds of mental health illnesses are. I think
yeah,
just being educated about these things puts you in a better position to help others. And I mean, it's such a noble cause to be able to extend yourself for somebody else.
yeah. True. And I think another reason why this happens is that, if either of us get hit and we have a swelling on our arm, everyone around us can see that. And, a doctor will
Yeah.
recommend us, and, if he thinks there's a bacterial infection, he'll give us antibiotics, or he'll just give us a painkiller or an anti-inflammatory. But the thing is, for the same thing, people hesitate to go to therapists because they are scared, what the medicines will do and, if they'll give us medicine. Honestly, no therapist is gonna recommend you medicines if you don't need them. Only if they feel that you're at a point wherein, all these things you fail to follow. And if they feel like, that's the only way to go about things, that's when they're gonna recommend you those
And
medicines.
I mean, it's the psychiatrist's job to recommend medicines. A therapist
Yeah,
is not licensed to prescribe medicines. So when you're going to therapy, you're just learning different coping mechanisms. And if you feel that that's not enough, then you resort to medicines. And again, that's not something that makes you less in any
less
way.
of a person.
It
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't.
exactly. It's
Just
your way, it's the process of getting better for you.
just like you would take a medicine if you had an injury on your leg or your hand or whatever, the
Yeah,
same way, if there's something wrong with the way your brain is working, the chemical messengers
yeah,
and everything, then I mean, you have to take medicines, and I mean, you will get better. I mean, you just have to understand all these aspects and not shame anyone for
yeah,
wanting to help themselves, I feel.
yeah, for sure. So, guys, we are up for questions if you don't mind, Ashwarya.
I
And
don't
if any
mind.
of y'all have any questions, just post so we can read, and hopefully the two of us can help answer your questions. So, shoot.
So I cannot like see anything, but you can tell me what the questions
Yeah,
are.
yeah, for sure. I'm glad this is going about well. It's just, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think you're buffering a bit, like that's what happened like throughout the live, but I think all of us can hear you clearly.
I hope,
So, you
I
know,
hope people
yeah,
heard
yeah,
me.
yeah, no, no, we did.
Because like
So
from
I'm just
your
waiting for a
side,
few questions.
yeah.
Say,
From your side, I can hear you clearly. I mean, there's no
okay,
lag or buffer or anything.
okay. Um, Someone has requested, I am Shinichi, has requested you to end the live with your poem once again.
I know Shinichi. He's from. I know him because of Fresh Face. Hi, Shinichi. How are you doing? So I am going to be putting up this poem. Probably tonight or maximum by tomorrow morning. It'll be up on my profile. So if you ever want to go back and read it, that option is also available. But yes, okay. I will read it one more time.
Oh, it's so
Should I?
sweet of you.
Born as a girl child, naive enough to think I wouldn't be treated any different, that my gender wouldn't define my rights, my safety, my freedom. But a patriarchal society had other plans. When I was molested at the age of 11 by an adult man, he followed me home to my stairs and grabbed me from behind. Said the zipper on his jeans was somehow stuck to mine. Underage me could also smell the ridiculous lie. But when he started rubbing himself on me, all I thought I could do was helplessly stand by. Yet, I somehow mustered courage to push him away. Ran as fast as I could to my mother because I was so afraid to stay. Got a hold of him and took him to his family. But what they said was not something I was prepared for mentally. Apparently, I was the liar, the one misunderstanding, the one making it up. If you are not victim blamed, well, honey, I guess they would say that you are in luck. But I was still so young with a lot of hope in my eyes. Alas, life came at me with another cruel surprise. From rape and acid attack threats to slut shaming, stalking, and cyberbullying, I had to face it all. I think that was what began a mere 12-year-old's downfall. Tolerated his abuse for a year before my parents found out. Rape culture and misogyny are so deeply rooted, there is no doubt. The boy was still a minor who didn't know any better, they said. But what about the heart of a 12-year-old girl that bled? The more I grew up, the more I realized how catcalling, unwanted touching, unwelcome sexual advances were all being normalized. Not one person of my gender that hasn't been harassed by a male at least once in her life. But when we start to speak up, you can't take that, not quite. In spite of all the struggles and suffering, today I stand before you a woman who has finally found her voice, hoping she can reach out to the ones who feel they don't have a choice. Thank you.
More power to you, man, always. Um, one of so we have a question.
Mm-hmm.
As you spoke about toxic masculinity before, what are some of the ways you think we can address this issue in today's generation?
So, like I said, having these conversations with people who are engaging in this, because at when you are at such an impressionable age, you don't understand better, and you need adults to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah,
I think, and if a child messes up in that regard, even if it's a male or a female, I think reprimanding them at that specific point is also important. I don't mean like shouting or screaming at them, but making them understand that what you did or what you said was not right. I think that's where responsible adults come in to educate children on what is better and what isn't.
yeah,
Um, Even in terms of protecting yourself, I think for because a lot of the times children face a lot of abuse, but they don't understand that it's abuse because they don't know what is
yeah,
appropriate touching and what isn't. And I think all of these things need to be taught, along with the fact that I think once children start to grow up a little, they're told that, okay, if you're being friends with a girl, that means, you're crushing on her or something like that. So it's made like a
Yeah.
very foreign concept of hanging out with a girl once you start to grow up. I
Yeah.
think that's something that needs to be shattered. That, I mean, you can be friends. It always doesn't have to be something sexual. I think
Yeah.
these things are something you can teach your child. You can teach your child to not restrict themselves to a particular gender characteristic. I mean, if you're a guy and you like to wear makeup, or you like to wear a, I don't know, any other outfit that wouldn't be considered normal, probably,
Traditionally
go,
masculine. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead and do that, because these restrictions have been placed onto us, but that doesn't mean that we need to conform to them, because
Yeah.
this also perpetuates toxic masculinity in a way, because you feel like you have to live up to that expectation, that you have to
Yeah.
act macho all the time.
Yeah.
um I mean, it's not about, like going out with guys or hanging out with guys and, like having fun. It's not that. That is not toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is feeling that if you support feminism, you're less of a man, or
Yeah.
that you cannot cry, or you cannot express yourself in public, or even things like cooking around the house is not something a man would do, sort of a thing. Because this affects not only men but also women. I mean, it's both genders that get affected because of this at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Because there's a lot of entitlement to women that comes in because of toxic masculinity, and there's also preconceived notions about being a female, that a female is supposed to be submissive all the time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these things, they need to be addressed from when you're a child, because that's how you grow up. Like, the surroundings that you grow up in really make a difference. And for the people who've not been blessed with these surroundings, it's never too late, even now. I mean,
Yeah.
you have Google at on your hands, even Instagram. There are so many accounts. If you just go through them and try to see one or two videos here and there, or even reels for that matter, today, you will learn one or the other thing. So, like, if you just put yourself out there and are open to understanding how all of this plays a role, and understanding the bigger picture and how you should not contribute to the problem, I think that would really help.
Yeah, and I think another way to combat toxic masculinity is for for men and women to adapt to the changing gender roles that we are seeing in today's generation. Gone are the days when men were supposed to be breadwinners. Today,
Yes.
women across all fields, they are in positions of they are in positions to earn more than their male counterpart, and also in positions of power and influence. So as a man, if it could be your wife who's probably earning more than you, be supportive of her instead of being competitive with her. If it's your sister who's in positions of power or influence, again, be supportive of her instead of being envious of her, and accept that it's good that those things have happened to her, instead of feeling that I'm a guy, I'm a man, I have to be in those positions.
Yes,
It's okay to play the supportive role also once in a while.
I think yes, that's very important, that changing with the changing times.
Yeah.
That's really important, because I mean, even for us, there's a lot of things that we've learned now, that we've been exposed to. um, Wait, you were lagging in between, but it's fine
Okay.
now. I think,
Yeah.
yes, all of us have learned a lot, and there's always room for improvement and learning more, gaining new perspectives, knowing where you're going wrong, where you can do better. I think just
Yeah.
being open like that, and not being very stubborn that, this is the perspective I have, I'm not going to change it. I think that
Yeah.
really helps also.
Yeah. I agree. I think so someone is mentioning about that schools especially play such a important role. One sec. That schools play such a big role in creating that hanging out with guys or wearing short skirts is asking for attention. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Teachers
And
also need to do better
yeah, and
in terms
these
of
these
this.
are things which, guys and girls at a young age, these are things that they learn from their
Their
surroundings and their
surroundings,
elders.
exactly.
These are not things that come naturally to them.
Yes, it's very important. Like I said, as a responsible adult, you need to do better in terms of that. Somebody had actually even commented this on one of the posts that I made, that teachers actually shame the girls for wearing like short, if the uniforms are shorter than knee length or something on those lines, like I think that kind of makes it okay in the mind of a child to probably act like that. Because if the
Yeah,
teacher could do that, why shouldn't they, sort of a thing? So it's very
yeah.
important to understand that children are impressionable, and it's upon us to teach them how to
And
do
mold
better.
them to be better humans. Yeah,
Because they are the future at the end of the day, and it is upon us to do that. And if all of us decide that, okay, it's not our responsibility, if I'm not their parent, I'm not going to do that, that doesn't help either. You don't have to be a parent to teach a child how to behave. You can
yeah,
still approach them in a kind way and tell them if they're going wrong.
yeah. So I guess we are approaching the end of the life. I think it went well. What do you think, Aishwarya?
I couldn't even understand that I was speaking for the past 1 hour almost.
Yeah, right. Amazing that it's almost 50 minutes since then.
Yeah, I just
But
saw the
I'm glad
time.
I'm glad we had this conversation, and I'm so happy that you agreed to have a live with us. It means a lot for all of us at Samvad. Thank you.
I really appreciate getting to speak about these things and keep doing my bit to make a difference in whatever way possible. And I wish nothing but the best to Samvad and keep up the good
Thank you.
work. And I'm always going to support you guys because it's such a noble cause, and it's something that really needs to be spoken about more often so that the stigma surrounding mental health reduces day by day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I guess yeah, Shinichi saying big ups to both of you. Thank you, Shinichi, for being for commenting and having an active part.
Thank you,
So I
Shinichi.
guess we'll end this live right now. Do you have any last things to say, Ashwarya?
Um, I just feel that be open to educating yourself, hearing different perspectives. All of us are learning and growing at the end of the day. Um,
Yeah,
so just try to play your part, and even if you can make a difference in one life, please go ahead and do that. Even making a
yeah,
difference in that one life matters because you create a chain reaction of change. So it's
yeah,
very important. So just do whatever you can, whatever little you can, but just something, as long as it's something. That's all.
yeah. Honestly, I would tell the same to everyone who's listening that just be an open person and be okay to unlearn the things you've learned throughout your life.
So
And
important.
yeah, and just, be self-aware of, all of us have biases that we've developed throughout our lives. So just being self-aware of those biases when they are kicking in and actively trying to change them, not just for yourself, but, so that you become a beneficial part of society. And when you start doing that, make sure that you help others do that too and help others in that process too. So
Yes,
that's it.
that's very important, actually.
Yeah. Peace.
I can't do that. Like okay, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye bye. It was nice talking to you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye, Ashwarya. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.